Shortly after the release of the movie Godfather 2, Strasbourg, the actor who played the villain Jewish gangster Godfather Chimeros in the play, received a call from the American mafia legend Meyer Lansky. The other party congratulated him on his outstanding performance and praised the line "We are stronger than American steel." Finally, joked, "You should show me more compassionately." Lansky, who has been in the world for a lifetime, is known as the mafia accountant and the shadow godfather. He is a key figure in the development of a national organized criminal group in the United States. FBI agents commented on him, if Lansky took the right path, he would be the CEO of the Fortune 500 in the world. His story is far more exciting than in the movie, and the ending is completely different. Lansky is a Polish Jew and was born in Tsarist Russia in 1902. Due to the increasing extermination of sects, the family immigrated to the United States in 1911 and settled in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. At that time, this was the dirtiest place in New York, with a large number of immigrants and a bunch of gangs. Lansky formed a gang when he was a teenager because he felt that the Jews had to join forces with Italians and Irish people to keep warm. The first member he recruited was also a friend, named Siegel. Soon, he became friends with the Italian Luciano, the father of organized crime in the United States, who was later acquainted with Luciano. These three are all top-notch. Luciano has a big structure and strong leadership. Siegel is famous for his good marksmanship and courage. Lansky is proficient in mathematics and has a very business acumen. From 1920 to 1933, the United States implemented a ban on alcohol. How could this thing be forbidden? If there is demand, there is a market. If you don't allow it to be sold openly, then it will come secretly. The underground wine industry was formed rapidly, and gangs rose up. Lansky and the three of them initially followed the Jewish gang leader Rostin. This person was the first to realize that prohibition was a business opportunity and used the gang as a business operation. Lansky and the others learned a lot and each had quite strong strength. In the late 1920s, Rostin was killed. This is what this job looks like. It looks great and has a great glory, but maybe I will die one day. Rostin's malign empire was divided. Lansky and Siegel led the Jewish gangster. Luciano was involved in the Italian mafia circle, but he always maintained friendship with Lansky. He has always had a vision to form a national criminal group, unite Italian, Jewish and Irish gangs, concentrate resources, avoid internal friction, and make everyone profitable. Lansky fully supports this. In May 1929, he and Luciano invited gang representatives from more than a dozen states to hold the American Mafia Summer Summit in Atlantic City. The leaders discussed the previous merger between each other, how to avoid the next step, and how to diversify and expand the business scope to offset the losses caused by the possible abolition of the alcohol ban. The meeting was seen as a prelude to the establishment of organized crime groups across the United States. After nearly 2 years of preparation for reorganization, actually, it is to get rid of the leader who disagrees. In 1931, the National Committee of the American Mafia was established. The board of directors is composed of the bosses of the 5 major gangsters in New York and the boss of the Buffalo family, plus Al Capone, the king of Chicago's underground. Lansky is an advisor to the committee and leads the murder company. This thing is similar to the gang church in martial arts novels, supervises the business of various families, and at the same time guarantees the authority of the committee, so that he can do whatever he should do, and even a guy can do it. Lansky once persuaded the committee to let him take charge of Las Vegas and invest in the Flamingo Hotel he developed. The hotel construction and operation are far behind the plan, and the budget exceeds several million. The big guys have lost a lot of money, and they suspect that Siegel has gained his personal pockets. A normal company loses money from investors and at most it goes bankrupt and liquidates and goes through legal procedures. The mafia does not have this statement, and the big guys want to destroy Siegel. Lansky pleaded twice to save his childhood friend's life, but the hotel later suffered losses, and he had no choice but to agree to his subordinate Siegel being killed. After Siegel was killed, the Jewish gangs were not as strong as before, but Lansky always maintained a strong influence because he was irreplaceable and could make money for everyone. As early as the early 1930s, before the prohibition was cancelled, he began to plan his casino business, from New Orleans, Miami to Cuba and the Bahamas. This is thanks to Lansky's innovation. First, improve unified rules. The rules of the same game were different in different places before, and many players were not used to it. Second, use the relationship between black and white to ensure that the business premises are absolutely safe, and staff must be innocent and not play tricks. In this industry, I am not afraid of you winning, but I am afraid that you won't come and play. At the same time, Lansky is also responsible for bleaching illegal funds and helping the bigwigs manage overseas assets. In 1932, he introduced money laundering in offshore banking, and through shell companies or capital injections of legal enterprises, He fabricated losses and employee lists, laundered and concealed black money, and at the same time cheated and evaded taxes. His ice cream shop money laundering model was written into FBI textbooks. Lansky, who is well versed in risk management, always keeps 3 books, one for the IRS, one for partners, and the last one is his own. With this shrewdness and prudence, Lansky, who has been involved in organized crime for more than 50 years, was only accused of tax evasion once in his life. As a Jew, Lansky did not forget his roots while surrounding the world. In the 1930s, he often brought his men to the pro-Germany American League gatherings, tear down Hitler photos, and beat them up. During World War II, Lansky worked with the U.S. Naval Intelligence Agency to provide security for the construction of warships in New York port, while avoiding wartime Union strikes in exchange for the release of his friend Luciano, who was in jail. Boss Lou also made his relationship with the Italian Mafia. Operation Husky assisting the Allies to land in Sicily. Gangsters are very useful sometimes. After the war, Lansky became ties with former Cuban President Batista. Spend money and efforts to help him get on the top again. In 1952, Batista was in power again. Cuba, Lansky and the Mafia control the Havana entertainment industry and invest heavily in an attempt to make this place a second Las Vegas. Lansky invested in $8 million Riviera Hotel and earned him $3 million a year, and the return rate was really good. But a few years later, in 1959, the Cuban Revolution was successful, Batista ran away, Castro and his comrades entered Havana, banned the casinos and confiscated the hotels, and the Mafia suffered heavy losses. However, the big guys did not make things difficult for Lansky. After all, they had to point at him to manage their finances. In 1970, Lansky moved to Israel to avoid tax evasion charges from the United States. Although he was deported 2 years later, the lawsuit was won and he was acquitted. Since then, Lansky, who was in his 70s, retired and lived in seclusion on the beach of Miami and died of illness in 1983. On the surface, he only left $57,000 in his account, but the FBI determined that there were at least $300 million in his hidden account, but he just couldn't find it. The name of mafia accountant is definitely not a false reputation. The most dangerous thing in the world is never violence, but precise control of the rules. Just as the Hebrew proverb engraved on Lansky's tombstone, wisdom is better than swords and guns.